we're fortunate enough to be able to pick our clients. So we have this thing called the moral compass. I don't know if I spoke about this before, where if a project comes in and it's of questionable nature, we just pitch it to the team and like, what do you guys think? We don't work with any oil or gas companies, obviously as part of B Corp, but also part of I'm also an ambassador for the Clean Creatives, and they are this collective of agencies that basically champion not doing any work for oil or gas. So that's just already like a flat no. And we had 2 people we turned away, 2 clients just in the last 6 months who came from that sector, and we were like, a lot of money, but we're like, we can't actually justifiably do this and we don't want to. So that helps with everyone feeling included, which I think comes back to your point of just managing that culture and that sort of, we're all in it together sort of thing.
So, Kat, How, welcome to the Never Not Creative podcast. How&How is a 5-year-old agency with offices in London and LA and a B Corp, known for pretty progressive practices. When I've talked to people actually about interviewing you, they go, oh, they're going places. They're doing stuff. They're exciting. So definitely seem to be on the up. You've got a pretty fascinating journey as well, from kind of journalism to design, and you've written about creativity, but now you're kind of the one doing the creating. But you started the agency in lockdown, is that right? In 2020, which obviously was
not the best
what
of times.
Everyone was thinking of doing at that time.
Yeah, especially with 2 kids.
But then at the same time, that's kind of like, what do you do when there's a slowdown? You invest and go, let's be ready for when we come out of it. So let's chat about your kind of background and where that came from and what sort of led into the idea of, I'm going to start an agency.
Yeah. Well, I wish there'd been a plan, or maybe there wasn't a plan, because there certainly was not a plan to starting it. But I suppose, my background, I studied English literature at university actually, but I was always, before uni, I was conflicted because I always loved designing, painting. But my dad was like, you've got to get a job.
That's what my dad did. I wanted to do
go
sport.
to Red Brick, and he was like, no, you can always do art and design on the side. Just do it on the side as a hobby. And I was like, all right, I'll do English then. And then we had to read loads of literature, which I didn't read because I was out at the pub with my mates all the time, which was lots of fun. And then I finished, and then I was like, I still wanted to integrate design or art into my work. So started writing art reviews and design reviews for a local newspaper, then start branching out into freelance for other national newspapers. But I was doing all the critiquing of these people's work, all the creative work, and I was just there tearing it down. I did theatre reviews, art reviews, dance reviews, reviewed restaurants, but particularly with the design stuff.
Were you a critical critic? Or were you?
No, I'd like to give people the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah.
I mean, I think so. Although there was one review, it was a really bad comedy show. It was terrible. I got lots of 1-star reviews, and I did give it a 1-star. And someone, I think it was the actual comedian who didn't have a great run at Edinburgh, which is where I was reviewing it, told me to stay at home with my knitting because I didn't know what I was talking about. And I was like, it could have been way harsher. I agree, but I did then think, he's probably right, actually. Like, who am I to judge the creative work of other people? Because if I'm not doing it myself, then, so that was a bit of a shift in thinking. And I was like, well, I'm just going to let's just change this up because this isn't really me. So I moved to Australia, went to Melbourne for 2 years. I retrained in graphics. Started out in graphics, some studios in Melbourne. Like, oh my God, the creative directors there just put up so much stuff. Like, can I swear on this?
Yeah,
great. Fucked loads of things up. Did the classic, like sending print jobs wrong. All the classic things that you do when you're inexperienced as a designer. But I learnt the hard way and bounced around, and then decided to come to London to do an MA in graphics because I was like, I need to feel like I know how to do it. Really, if I just stayed on in agencies, I would have learned way more stuff. But regardless, I felt like I needed that sort of accolade or that little tick. So moved to London, went to St Martin's, did a 2-year MA. We all cried all the time because the tutors were absolute bastards, and were always telling us that our work was awful. But then, the idea was that they break you down and then they build you up. But not many people were built up. Most were broken down. Thankfully, I had a good group of friends I met there, and some illustrators, some other graphic designers, typographers, and so we sort of had a good. So I'm still friends with them, 20 years later. So yeah, did that. Felt like I was gonna just work in the studio, but I actually moved to Bristol with my husband. We set up our first business together, which was an e-com selling the work of designer makers. So some of the people I'd met in London during the course, and also I used to sell some stuff in Brick Lane, like little bits of jewelry and bits of crap that I make. Then we were like, well, let's put them on a shop. This was before Etsy. Big Cartel was just starting, but it was quite new because, and people didn't, artists and designers didn't really know how to market themselves. So we were like, cool, let's do that. But we ran it quite like an agency. We put a lot of emphasis on art direction, photo shoots, lots of PR. And then we grew it. It had a little shop even that got, lots of featured in like the best shops in England by The Guardian with top 10 best shops. And then the online shop did really well as well. But we probably did that for a bit too long. We had both kids in that time. Did it for like 6 years. We sold it to a competitor. And then we were left with all these warehouses of where we had all the stock. We just didn't know what to do with it. But they were beautiful warehouses in the centre of Bristol. So then we turned that into a co-working business, and we were like, what are we doing? What do we do? We just want to work together, but we don't know what to do. And one of the designers that was, because the co-working was for creatives as well. So again, we had that lean and that slant. We wanted it to be for designers and artists. One of them there was like, you guys need a logo, obviously, and a brand for the co-working. And I'm a designer. And we were like, okay, yeah, let's. Obviously, I'd thought about that too, having worked as a designer, but we collaborated. And he was like, you guys should really, set up an agency. Let's do it together. And we were like, okay, let's do that. And then we started setting it up. And then we just decided Brexit had just happened in England. And we then just sort of pulled quite a fast one. And we were like, actually, we're going to move to Lisbon because we want our kids to grow up by the sea and be European. And that's what we believe in. So Neil, this lovely guy, was like, oh, right, okay, never mind then. So we moved. And then I think it was like a year we moved to Lisbon. We're still trying to make the co-working work remotely and like still bits and bobs. And then we just were like, actually, we're just going to make this thing. And what we started with the brand of co-working then became the agency. So we were tinkering away at it a few months, obviously, before May, but we officially, had to do the website and all that stuff. But we launched in May 2020 with both kids stuck at home, and obviously it was all very fractious, but the rest is history.
And did you know what you wanted it to be? Like, did you go, I definitely don't want it to be this type of agency or this type of agency? Or was it more you just went, let's have a crack?
We are so green and so naive. Like, yes, I'd worked in agencies, but my husband had worked at the BBC for almost 10 years. So he knew like big sort of corporate culture, I suppose you could call it that, and broadcasting. But we didn't really, like, there's so much stuff that we learned on that. We had no agency connections at all because I'd never actually worked in an agency in the UK. I'd only been in Australia, so that like we had no referral stuff, no previous clients. It was all just completely from scratch. So that was a bit of a sharp learning curve. We had 2 freelancers start with us, and then we just sort of made it up. But we did know that we'd had anecdotally bad experiences or heard of bad experiences at agencies. So there were certain things that we knew we didn't, we wanted to protect in terms of the values that we had as an agency. And I suppose that's where some of these other things have popped up in.
So the B Corp piece, when did you get B Corp?
On the day of our Christmas party last year. That was good.
Okay.
So last December, but it took us
snap. We pretty much got ours in last December.
Really? Maybe they just had a little flurry. They're like, come on. Happy Christmas, everyone. It was great. We got really smashed that in. It was fun. But it was good because it had been 2 years and because we'd bounced around some co-workings and it was all quite pandemic-y, and then they needed, as you know, you need to have an office because they need to check the electricity and all these things and moving around.
It's weird that I feel like you kind of get punished for not having an office because you can't earn any points. And so that's what we don't have. We're all remote. And it's like, oh, we could earn points if we had an office, but then if we had an office, surely we're putting more back into
I know.
yeah.
It's a little bit. We had that too, and because we were in 2 different co-workings, we basically paused it, and then anyway. But no, we got that, so that's good. And yes, we do still have values. I think that we want to, that obviously B Corp really helps us to integrate as well. So,
so how do you feel so when we went through our B Corp, we kind of used it as validation in a way of like, oh, we're actually doing a lot of this stuff. It's good. And it's nice to see that that's recognized. And then there are a few other things that's like, oh yeah, no, we haven't got that, but we kind of do it. So let's just document it.
Yeah.
Did you find it changed anything, or did you go, oh, you know what, it was just a nice alignment with values?
I mean, it was good. It was good. There was some stuff that aligned, but there's stuff that, like breastfeeding policy. I was like, I didn't even consider that. And I'm like a mum. So it's, there's some stuff that was eye-opening. And I was like, great. Well, I'm glad that we've got that covered, because you don't think, particularly when you're just starting something, you're just worrying about, I don't know, the next client or like the designers or whatever. You're not thinking about such an integrated and like holistic view of everything. So having that there was like, oh yeah, we will have to think about that. Great. And then documenting that just means now we've got all of those, systems in place, and which is great. It's really useful. Just a bit, it was, as you know, like a little bit of a slog.
Yeah, it is.
But it ain't meant to be easy, I suppose.
I think it's also just a good blueprint. Like if you're starting a business and you started with that, you'd actually be in a pretty
good to go, aren't you? Yeah. You feel it's reassuring as well for designers and clients, indeed, to know that you've done that, because at least you know that those things have had to be considered.
Yes.
So
So one of the things, there's a longish segue into salary. So obviously we do a lot of work. Never Not Creative does a lot of work around mental health. A big part of mental health is kind of financial security and insecurity. And you have salary transparency here at How&How.
Yep.
What drove it, and what effect do you think it's having?
Well, what drove it? I've always been quite I am opinionated, unfortunately. But I've always, I don't know. I've been part of lots of charities, and I've always had a sense of justice, I suppose, is important. And I value that. So I think I knew that was something. I mean, it's the gender pay gap, I think, is at like 20.3% still. So that's how much less women are earning than men. It felt like an opportunity to just, do things on our own terms. And like, well, actually, wouldn't this be cool? Because something that everyone's complaining, not complaining about, obviously, like, of course they're complaining about it. But it's, it's just, it's so endemic that, we just were like, well, it doesn't have to be this way. And it's up to us to, I suppose, make the example. But if other agencies are doing it, that's totally fine. They can whatever. I would obviously love it if everyone could do it, but we're just going to use our own agency as an example. So how does that affect people? Like particularly the women in the team all absolutely love it. It's really reassuring for them. They know they're not going to be paid less just because they're a girl and there's a boy next to them doing the same job.
And this is because you've kind of known and heard stories of people leaving places.
All the time. And there's also just, it means that there's more, ability for them also to see the progression, see that everyone is on the same path, because there is still a massive problem. I think 63% of graduates from design are women, but only, I think, 17% have leadership roles too. So having that trajectory, seeing that salary as well, and seeing that you can match that against a man, is just quite empowering, and also just strikes me as really crazy that it doesn't happen. So I'm ambassador for an amazing company called Show the Salary, and they're a charity, and they're just trying to basically just try and get salary visibility on everything. But the UK said, oh, people over, we'll enforce this for companies of people of over 250 or more. But like, over 90% of creative agencies are 50 people or less. So it just doesn't even touch the sides. So it's been really good, and it means that the guys that work for us are also really progressive. They believe in it, they get it, they want to support their colleagues, and everyone's just on board with it, really.
Had any pushback?
Well, not from people in the team, because people have joined. We've had pushback when we've been hiring for certain roles, and we're like, "Cool, this is the salary," and they're like, "Yeah, I know, I love it, but yeah, I just need more." And we're like, "Yeah, it doesn't really work that way." So we've not hired people because they're behind the concept of it, but they don't believe that they believe that they should be earning more. Fine, fair enough, but they can go somewhere else, because I think. Yeah, I mean, we've spoken about this a little bit before, but we benchmark everything. So we know that we rest assured knowing that we've got salaries which are really competitive and some of the best in the biz. So we're like, okay, it's not, you're not having less, you're not earning less because we've got this. We need, in fact, to make sure that we're paying you almost as much as we possibly can, and as much as everyone else is, in order to be competitive, because we do know that competitors might look at our transparency, exactly what we're paying people, and just maybe like pay someone a couple of grand more.
Have you had that? Have you had anyone poached?
Oh yeah, I've had a few poached. Yeah, but you never know what. And so that's part of the game, isn't it? But I've never like followed up and asked about, is this are you getting paid more? I'd never do that, but perhaps.
Yeah, but also it's like anything. You fix one problem, you'll probably create another, right?
Yes.
But as long as you're doing the right thing and you feel like that's going in the right direction.
And I'd say to anyone, I suppose, listening who would think about integrating this, is that what you can also do to mitigate some of that is to have a range of within that bracket. You have a range, so you can have a lower tier, mid tier, and a senior tier within each tier of, say, like graphic design or copywriting, whatever. And that means that you can plot someone depending on their experience, but also because there's that range, it's not, people don't necessarily know exactly
what everyone is.
So that's a workaround, I suppose.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So we caught up last night, or the night before. The night before. It's very quick. And you talked about how much mentorship goes on here. Yeah. You did also kind of refer to the mentorship of the girls in the office.
Yeah.
Recognizing that, that's probably the side that the pendulum needs to swing back to the most, obviously. But mentoring's, like, a lot of people like the idea of mentoring and go, someone will say, go and get a mentor. But then people kind of rock up and they go, okay, mentor me.
Yeah.
Which is then hard to manage. How do you structure those conversations? And how do you make sure that, you're there to help, you're not there to do all the work? That's on the kind of mentee,
yes,
right?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, I do lots of reading around the best way to do a one-to-one, or I follow this guy called Founder Coach. We actually did his brand a few years ago, and he's got these good tips for exactly those sorts of issues. Specifically for CEOs or founders of companies. And I think we want the chats that I have with the team to be very different, and the girls on the team to be very different from the one-to-ones they have with their line managers, where okay, they might talk about work a bit and projects or some clients or whatever, but these ones are specifically about career progression. And I've devised a little sort of 4 themes that we go through each time, which is what are your aspirations? What are your leadership aspirations? Anything that you want to talk about in terms of do you want to raise your profile? Where do you see yourself? So it's more big sky thinking, blue sky thinking. And so it's quite structured, but then I also just say at the beginning, we can also just vibe it as well, and come with me with any things that you want to talk about. But we always have to finish with some objectives that they have to achieve and bring to the next one, because otherwise you can just chat and sit around all day and drink tea, but there's no movement forwards. So so I have a structure and a plan, but one that's quite flexible, that we can
Does that do you then also end up having those salary conversations in those types of
all the time? And in fact, I always believe that people should never ask for a salary rise, they should always be pushed and always be given one before they even ask.
I agree.
And I think a lot of that is just discussion beforehand. Right, come on, let's just be honest. I said this the other day, like, let's just be fucking honest. I want you to earn more money. I want the whole company to earn more. Like, I want to win the right work and the best work so I can give you more money, because that's what we all want at the end of the day. I want more money too. Wouldn't that be nice? I can afford to buy my house in Santa Monica, hopefully, maybe in 20 years. But yeah, it's just being honest about it. Okay, cool. You want more money. How are you going to do that? Well, maybe if we did this as a team, we could win this job, and then we could do this. And we have a profit share scheme as well that helps. But it's always just like, that's the elephant in the room. Do you want more money, or do you want a better title? And sometimes people actually sometimes the title wins over, so people have different needs and desires for that. So yeah, it's always about how are we going to push you to the next step, because it's proactive as opposed to reactive to people coming to us and asking. Yeah.
So what, like in the culture of the agency, if it's all quite open and transparent as well, and it feels like there's a nice vibe here.
Yeah, thanks.
What about when it gets tough? Like, how do you look out for the team? What are the kind of things that you still got work to do on?
Yeah, I mean, we are going through a particularly tough. We've got a little constellation of really tricky clients right now, and we talk about it in all hands, and we're like, look, guys, we get it. So we're very open about acknowledging that we have tricky clients.
Yeah.
I think. And we talk with the client services team about this too and coach them. But I think there's a really difficult, delicate balance to have between, leadership, which is like, I think Napoleon said that a leader is a dealer in hope. So you have to provide hope, but you also have to provide a sense of like reality as well. And so to sort of sweep it under the carpet and be like, la 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 la, they're being client is being horrible to the team. But it's fine, guys, just whatever. It's the client. No, like, you have to still, put on a brave face, but you also have to acknowledge that this isn't cool. So in the past, I've divorced and fired a client because of how they've been to us, and just told them to, keep the money, keep the, and we've walked away. I've had really difficult conversations with when people come to me and said, oh, like they made so and so cry in a call today. I'm like, what the fuck? Okay, right, haul in the CMO, pull it, like, what's going on? You cannot treat our team this way. We this is probably oversharing, but one of our clients has refused to pay a really annoying amount of an invoice. And because I'm in town this week, I was like, and they're in Soho, I was like, do you know what? And the team are really like disheartened, and they're like, we worked really hard on this job, and it really above and beyond for these guys. And they just were like, yeah, but we just don't think we're going to pay you the full thing because we had to get this up. And I was like, I'm just going to go down their bloody offices, and I'm just going to go to reception. I'm going to speak to the bloody CEO and just say, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Like, you can't just not pay something. I think that show, I mean, that's extreme. My husband was like, just make sure they don't call the police on your K-Cat.
I thought you were going to say you're all going to go down and egg the offices. And
I was there with my pitchfork, but just, I suppose, showing that also, that is extreme.
Was it the client or the CEO? Like, was the CEO surprised, or did he know all about it?
He wasn't in. He just, I know, he's at a wedding, and so I was like, Dan, I was like, come back the next day. I was like, well, I could. But I think it's annoying that didn't work out, because I was really up for
I remember having a client who we were waiting to get paid, and especially when you're a smaller agency, getting paid is quite a big deal. And I remember the marketing director saying, oh, the CFO said, he's not going to get to it right now, it's not a priority. And I'm like, oh, it's not a priority. Okay, I said, okay, if you don't mind, then I'll just text John, who was because all CEOs are called John, right?
Yeah. Standard CEO name.
Who I know is on holiday at the moment, and just say, hey, I'm having some problems getting paid. And we got paid the next day. That's like, why is that even
exactly.
a thing?
It's just, it's really annoying. And I think if the team I don't know, I think it was quite fun when I came back in the office, and everyone was like, I was like, did you actually go down? That's like, but I think, like I said, it's an extreme version, but showing that you really give a shit about your team, that obviously that was a payment thing, so that's a collective agency thing. But but then there's also times when you're like, look, guys, I'm really sorry, but they're just, because we work with so many people all the time, and like we have projects coming through the agency all the time, just by the law of averages. So you're always gonna get some, some difficult clients, toxic clients. And then you just have to manage that in an appropriate fashion.
The research we do shows very strong correlations between levels of mental health in people who work for businesses that are seen to be putting people before profit, or profit before people. And it's those kind of actions, right? It's not about, it's like if you cancel the Christmas party and then all the bosses get a bonus, or you make redundancies and, you move offices and refurb somewhere. Or you have poor clients exhibiting poor behavior, but you say, hey, we've got to suck it up because we need the money. Then you've, in all of those occasions, you've put profit before people. Exactly. It makes a big difference.
Yeah. And I think those moments where you show that, it's a two-way street, and it's a relationship when you're working on a project with just because they're paying doesn't mean they can be disrespectful. So I think the minute that starts to veer into that territory, then I'm just a little email.
Yeah.
Want to have a quick chat just about what happened in the last, because I'm not in any of the sessions myself.
And you don't get to,
but I
you
get
can
the
come
feedback. But and I like a bit of fisticuffs as well sometimes.
So we've talked about like the financial side, the sort of people and behavioral side, but the other thing that can affect mental health with creatives especially is the work itself. Whether you get the opportunities, whether it's stimulating, whether it gets up. Which obviously is another big thing. I remember we both know Jason, and Jason, I remember doing a talk once talking about, killing 95% of his babies every day. Just ripping stuff down off the wall.
Oh, it's awful, isn't it?
How's that managed here? How do you stand up for the work, and also then how do you manage when it doesn't quite get there?
Yeah, I mean, it's always disheartening. But I think, the creative directors are always going to fight for the best creative they can. And I think that bravery is just inherent in the amazing ones that we have. But client services also have a massive role to play. And we actually sort of like get them quite excited about the power they have to actually fight for the good ideas and the best ideas, and that they can shape a project, and they have and that's, everyone thinks designers do. Of course they do. They physically do. But, how client services try and fight and win and push for the best stuff to come through and to be seen how it's presented and communicated is a big part of it as well. So we're like, come on, guys, always the best. But of course, lots of creative gets wasted. But I think one thing, I saw a presentation the other day from Niels, who runs On Common, and he said, always make sure that your team feel that their time isn't being wasted. And I get that. And I think it's like, oh God, another route just got slammed. Oh, the illustrations, which are actually really cool. And we've iterated on like 20 million times, have just been completely killed off. Like, and you feel like you're just sort of like scrambling for the best. But what we've started doing is, we celebrate all creative in an all hands at the end of the week. Where we're like, oh, look at this work. Okay, you might not make it through, but at least we can all share the love. Woo, looks amazing. So that's good. Lots of emojis, lots of like exploding GIFs. Then we have something called Hidden Gems, which I've just instigated, where we're like, cool, what are some bits that you've seen along when you guys are designing along the way that we could just repackage and spend out a bit of marketing on, still, tag you in it to make sure that you're credited for doing that work, even if it didn't see the light. Obviously, it always has to happen after the brand has been launched, obviously. But that's like another way of recycling some of the stuff. We haven't done it before, but we also just keep roots for maybe another project, or like, oh, maybe this could still fit somewhere else with something else. So that's a way of making them feel like it's not wasted either. So there's few.
That concept of, I mean, it's very obvious, but not necessarily something that I've heard a lot of before, which is teaching client service how to sell creative, and also, and not just that, but helping them see their role in it as being part of the team, because it's, many agencies, client services, invoices, quotes, manage the meetings, distribute the notes, brief the creative team. That sounds quite different. What do you think you do that is quite different around that?
Well, I always think the client, I've pitched some ideas to some newspapers about actually, like, don't talk about design, talk about client services. Almost half the team are client, no, a little bit less than half the team are client services. And like, without them doing what they do, like, we'd all just be like running around like headless chickens. So they are a silent force and should be treated with as much gravity as the designers, because with our team, we want them to feel like they're not just there taking notes, and we want them to lead conversations at the beginning, to like wrap everything up at the end, but also like it's their role as the conduit between team and client. They almost control the comms. So maybe it's my journalism background, but I'm like, how, they're the gatekeepers of that. How they communicate back to the team will also make the team feel either really disheartened or more like, oh, well, maybe it wasn't that bad, and we've had some terrible client feedback, which then has to get sort of like, just reformatted so that when the design team see it, they don't just all go home crying. So that's a really important role, because coming back to mental health, like that's like that like ability to control the emotions of the team and sort of help shape how they feel can also help shape how then they create the work afterwards. So if they're just feeling really like because they clients like the worst client service is people that just sort of like, here's the feedback, there you go, and like the designers just see it all and they just like get so stressed, and it's really, and there's no role, it's just really transactional, and that's not what we do here. So I think making them feel like they've got this ability to shape a project it's great. It's all part of the team, isn't it? So
definitely.
So
obviously there's quite a bit of, sounds like there's growth, the perception of growth as well from the industry too. How do you manage when you obviously bring more people in, you've got to bring maybe different types of clients in, everything starts growing. How do you keep the culture but also the healthiness of the people in the business alive?
I think our plan is to know, I think 30 is a really nice Goldilocks number, because it's not too big, it's not too small, it's just about right. But I think, I don't know, maybe we've been quite fortunate. I think we've had some luck. There's a lot of bloody hard work as well, as you can imagine, as you know. And I think the way we've approached it as business people before, even designers, my husband and I, because we've run businesses, we've worked in broadcast, we've worked in PR, comms, we've been able to market and always know that every rebrand has a story. It's not just the story of the brand, but then how you pitch that story and how you sell that story as well. So we're quite, what we didn't know in terms of anything to do with agency, we knew in terms of comms. So that's helped with the growth. And I think moving to the States is also really useful. But I think, as a team, it's something I think about all the time. I don't like the minute you start getting over a certain amount, then it starts to, we're obviously not there yet, but how do you still keep that like vibe? So we're fortunate enough to be able to pick our clients. So we have this thing called the moral compass. I don't know if I spoke about this before, where if a project comes in and it's of questionable nature, we just pitch it to the team and like, what do you guys think? We don't work with any oil or gas companies, obviously it's part of B Corp, but also part of I'm also an ambassador for the Clean Creatives, and they are this collective of agencies that basically champion not doing any work for oil or gas. So that's just already like a flat no. And we had 2 people we turned away, 2 clients just in the last 6 months who came from that sector, and we were like, a lot of money, but like we can't actually justify we do this and we don't want to. And the moral compass thing is a way of making people feel like they have some agency in some of the stuff that's done. So we did that for Chester Zoo, because that job came in and we were like, oh, zoo, bit of a bad word. Ooh, people profiting from animals. And then they were like, no, this is what everyone thinks, but we're a conservation charity and all the money from the tickets goes towards, giraffe, they brought back the black rhino. They've got all these amazing initiatives that they're doing in Africa to do with giraffes and elephants, and they have research programs, breeding programs. It's amazing. They didn't, but no one knew that, and so we put it to the team, and everyone decided to vote for. We had like one person who was like on the fence, but once they knew the story and that we had to communicate that what they
And
actually,
that was part
that
of
was
the
our
job.
job,
Yeah.
which actually was quite exciting. So in the end, we were like, cool, we actually have the power to change. And they've seen a massive growth because people are like, oh, right, now I feel like every pound I spend there is actually going back in, and they don't make any profits. So yeah, and that's powerful. But it also meant that if people in the team had a time, felt that they had that say, and it wasn't just like leadership secretly like doing deals. So that helps with everyone feeling included, which I think comes back to your point of just managing that culture and that sort of, we're all in it together sort of thing, I think.
How do you manage being vulnerable with the team? Like, how do you work out when things are going tough, how much to share and how much not to share?
Yeah, that's a good, interesting point, because obviously there's been, there was the tech, crash, wasn't there, a couple of years ago, when Silicon Valley Bank just went down, and we work with a lot of tech companies, and so we we lost I remember going skiing, and we were like, yay! And it was just like, it was quite an expensive holiday. And we were like, hey, can't, but we're going skiing in Austria, hurrah! It's going to be great. And then that was the week when everything just like shit hit the fan. And on Monday, we lost like a massive retainer. On the Tuesday, we lost a job that was supposed to come through. On the Wednesday, we lost another retainer. I remember on the Thursday being like, sort of skiing down, like not particularly well, by the way, I'm a shit skier, but like down the slope, sort of crying into my goggles, and just sort of just knowing that we had to make redundancies so we came back, basically. And I knew exactly what we had to do. And I knew that was going to have to happen as soon as we got back, because we just like loads of like money had just been wiped off of like, it was such a bloodbath. But thankfully it was only one person, not thankfully obviously, but it was just, it wasn't more, I suppose. By that I mean that not that anything to do with that person, but it was difficult. And so then how you communicate that to the team, and you show obviously the wider the wider geopolitical climate at the time or whatever also, but you also you have to show them that that's the reality of it too. So you know I occasionally, when people move on as well, that's not what we've communicated bad news when I've like cried, which I'm not a crier at all, but I have had moments where we're saying goodbye to someone on the team, or we have a party, a leaving party, and I've had shed many a tear, which is a bit unprofessional of me, really. But no, communicating bad news, I think it's something that you like get better at, and I think sadly, like the more you do of it, or the longer you've been around the block, the better you get
Plus,
at navigating.
there's no good way to do it. It's bad news, right? Like,
but the worst, exactly, and the worst thing is when you just don't say anything, and then suddenly the next day, you just suddenly everything's completely fucked the next day. But it's like, if people actually have some antecedents and know, you know, but obviously creatives have creative minds, and they tend to worry and overthink, and so it's managing that almost like personality type of creatives as well is quite like
And that's the challenge with a culture of transparency,
yes,
because people have to kind of be prepared for
they do,
transparency, right?
So we do show and again through the B Corp, as you know, we have a financial review and show everyone on the team every quarter. We do a little session here on big screen, and we tell everyone, oh, this was up, this was down. I think also if people see how much we're trying to always do and trying to like hustle for the business, and that we're all part of this, and we have a profit share scheme as well, which means that people are also incentivized to hustle for the team, and we have a grand in hand. So it's like, oh, okay, we need some, much rather pay one of our team a grand to find a designer that they've worked with in the past, as opposed to a recruiter. Sorry, recruiters, anyone out there. But so I think, I'm sorry, I don't know what I was talking about.
No,
But
to kind of follow on to some of that stuff, like we've kind of like dipped into mental health along the way through this conversation. And sometimes when you speak to leaders, especially, as soon as you mention the word mental health, they'll rattle off initiatives. We do this on a Thursday morning. We've got this policy. We've got this in place. You haven't done that, but clearly mental health is quite high on the priority list. and is still, it seems, fairly successful from just doing the right thing. Is that
Yeah,
like...
I mean, I would like to think so. I think if you try and over-engineer it, then, then it becomes inauthentic.
Yes.
And so I feel like Roger's always saying that he wants, I mean, I don't want to use the word family. I'm not going to use the word family when it comes to work. Oh, like, we want this place to be like a family.
Yeah.
It's not like that, because people are like, no, we just work, it's where we work. We're not your family. But we do want it to feel like it's a social club that you don't want to leave, or that you want to put, Roger and I love entertaining. We love having people over all the time, cooking dinners for everyone. And so we want the same vibe to be here. We want, we have, like, everyone's got, we're constantly doing socials, just because that's like how we also live our other life too. And I think if people feel like it's just a bit more, like, if you have too many of these policies in place, and obviously we're always thinking about it, we've got a budget for like fun, and a budget for like socializing, and a budget for the book club, and a budget for, but those things are, they're not because we're like, oh, we need to focus on mental health. No. It's because we actually just want people to,
that's going to create belonging. It's going to create a sense of
like just hanging out with your friends. And I think I spoke about this last time, when even when people leave, we always say, well, we're going to the pub next week. Do you want to join? And so we have people who worked for us 2 years ago or 6 months ago, or just rocking up and, do you want a drink? You sure? Really? No, of course, don't be stupid. Yes, of course. Like, it's fine. And then it means that people, still chat and, sort of. So hopefully it's a little bit more simplistic.
No, I agree with that. Like, I think authentic. A lot of it gets overthought sometimes because it's a thing. And there is, in Australia especially, but in fact around, there is legislation around making sure that places are psychologically safe. But it then turns, it's like you said, it can kind of become a little bit disingenuous, because it turns into a tick box and a checklist and a policy, and and that doesn't feel human, when what we're talking about is how we're looking after the humans that we spend probably the most time with.
Exactly. Yeah, I feel like it's I think it feels too like categorized as a thing, whereas actually it's just so much. It's just like it's in everything that you do, isn't it? It's like, it's how you approach, I mean, all the stuff we talked about today, that's all packaged into how people feel generally. And you can't like engineer fun, apart from playing like Scrabble, which I actually hate, but like so
what,
there's no rocket science.
We were sort of joking before around what's so great about the creative industry. And are people still thinking that? Like, what's the...
everything's it's fucked up, don't they?
Does everyone think, so what's like, what do you think?
I'm actually, unfortunately, I'm always a glass half empty sort of girl. My husband is a glass half full, so I think it's good. He's the optimist. I'm like, I still, I don't know, I say that, but I actually still think that, yes, AI is, a concern for people, because we have, people talking quite openly about how they've got, there's programs that they can build a complete brand identity, and why would you just not use that because it's free or whatever.
And every week. It feels like every week there's something new, right?
Today it's a banana and flux, which like basically mean you don't use Photoshop anymore, which is, so I think how we're approaching it is, like, don't despair, because I think if creators always do. Also, it is really gutting that, Gen AI obviously is, there's reappropriating work, and there's always sorts of other things in that mix which you feel are completely out of your control and quite disingenuous, in fact, very, and illegal. But so it's like offering, so that is worrying, but also maybe it's just about a different, perspective, and we do positioning all the time. It's like, we look at it from different angles. So we're just getting everyone, it's something we're actually enforcing this week, because AI is such a concern and everyone in the industry is worrying about it. And then you have creative agencies doing a bit of a land grab for design now, and going upstream and doing, more stuff from the very beginning that we historically have done. We've always been very like, contain, we do this, we do brand, and you guys do the campaigns. But now they're going blah, blah, of course, because they're losing loads of production. Anyway, that's happening at their ends, they've got to find it elsewhere, which is fine, but that's another thing that's shifting so much, even how agencies and what they're doing now and how they're iterating. And we're like, well, what do we do? Well, we just need to make AI a superpower that enhances and amplifies what we already do. So I'm trying to get everyone to use the programs every week to come up with some creative that we share in all hands. It could be really stupid image, it could be a great piece of motion, but they have to tell me what program they used, and we just got to start fucking using it, basically. And so then our superpower becomes the manipulation of those tools and the curation and the creative direction of that. So actually, let's see it as this could be a really exciting time where we can actually make cooler things. So I think that's how I'm trying to position it to people.
Does the value change? Does the model need to change in terms of like how?
I think it does.
What clients think they're paying for?
Yeah, but actually I think it's again about maybe positioning with clients, and it's like, cool, or we could use this, and it could be like, imagine if we could use this and we could do like 10 times this instead. So it's like the value is, what we need to do is make sure that we know where we can add the value and educate ourselves on that, which I think a lot of the creative industries is still a bit like, no, we can still, and I think those that do are not going to survive.
Especially if you think the value is the time that it takes to create something.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah. So it's about, how do you communicate this intangible value of brand to clients? I mean, that's a story for another day, perhaps. But it's like, how do you make them see that there's more, that, that AI isn't everything, and you can't just, because we have the clients all the time, oh, well, I could do this. We could do this. We could do the whole design system in AI. Like,
go on then.
But I think, and I think, this is why I do worry about smaller agencies, and we are definitely small, but ones that are smaller than us, because the sorts of people that probably go to them, startups and people who are just, starting out with ideas and want a quick brand and cheap brand, just will use AI. And I think we've just been able to get to a point where lots of what people pay for still, and I think we'll always pay for, strategy, stakeholder management, when you've got a team of like 15 people, and like AI can never do that. So all of that stuff at the beginning, so working with large enough teams that still understand the value of those things, and then us having to make sure that we can show them that we can still do cooler stuff with AI. So it's sort of fucked, but it's also really,
I think great. It's a good option. And also, look, this industry has been pretty resilient in the past, right? Like we've seen change before. It can get through
I think
it.
So I am optimistic. Actually, I say that. I think we'll just, we'll just make different things, and we'll just have to, adapt.
Yeah. Well, thanks so much for taking the time to chat and meet as we fortuitously just kind of realised we were around the corner, which was excellent.
Nice. Love that about London.
Yes, it's very good. And thanks for sharing all the thoughts today. And we'll be back for another Never Not Creative podcast with somebody else very soon.
Cool.
Thanks very much.